I just would like more holiday romances. Hi everyone, my name's Brittany from Brittany Loves the Reading, and it has been exactly a year since my reading completely changed. Last year during December, there was Holiday Rom-Comathon. I participated, I read some Christmas romances, I had a fabulous time, and I never stopped. I read some romances prior to last year, but not very many. It was definitely not my most read genre. It was probably like 5th or 6th. I did not read very much romance. This year, as of filming this video, I have read 110. I got a Kindle. I met a bunch of friends on BookTube who read romance, who introduced me to fabulous romance books, and it changed my reading year. This year was the year of me reading romance, and I didn't know what was gonna happen when I made my holiday rom-comathon vlog this time last year. So we're gonna go back to what started it all, what started my romance journey, and read some holiday romances. And I'm gonna start with the B&K Book Club book for this month, which is Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. Last year, I read Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, so it just seems appropriate to read another Tessa Bailey romance. Most of the time, I do enjoy a Tessa Bailey book. There's been a couple that I haven't, but in general, I do tend to enjoy them. There is a musical element to this book, but I'm gonna read a little bit of it before I tell you what it's about so that I have a really firm grasp of what the story is about. So I am 50% through Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. Right now, this is very middle of the road for me. I have things that I'm enjoying about it. It is a cute romance. There's some things that I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Or that's an odd choice. Why would you do that, main character? But I haven't really told you what it's about, so let's jump into that. This follows Beat and Melody. Beat and Melody are in their 30s. They're only a couple months apart. They're 30 years old. And their mothers were bandmates in a very famous band in the 90s. The band broke up right before both of them were born, and it kind of broke up with a scandal, but no one really knows what caused this scandalous breakup. And as of right now, I don't know all the details. I know some, not all of them. Their mothers were best friends, but have never spoken since. The band has quite a following. It's had a resurgence and people want a reunion, but these people are not speaking to each other. They're not gonna want to do a reunion of this band. So a producer contacts both Beat and Melody to see if they can kind of orchestrate a reunion. Beat agrees to do this because he needs money and he is being blackmailed and he needs to pay his blackmailer. Obviously, he was never told that they will just keep coming for more money. So maybe that wasn't a good plan, but here we are. Melody finds out he needs money and decides to help Beat try to get this together. She also could use the money for her own reasons. She kind of wants to distance herself from her mother and be financially independent from her mother. So she has her own reasons, but she is mostly doing this to help Beat. Which kind of comes to my first issue with this book. Beat and Melody met one time at the age of 16. The band broke up before they were born, and they met once for about 5 minutes. Then at the age of 30, they meet up to do this, and they are immediately us against the world, banter, friendship, and I feel like we missed the backstory of this friendship because there isn't one, but I think there needed to be one to explain their closeness at the start of this book. It's almost like a friends to lovers, but we forgot the friendship. And their obsession with each other and with their friendship is extreme. And that kind of comes to the part of why are you doing this main character that's a little strange? Because they're almost a bit stalkerish for each other. It's a little strange. But I'm not disliking it completely. Those are just, like I said, they're just a little strange. At this point, it's middle of the road. I do want to see how it ends. I'm interested to see how this reality TV show reunion kind of wraps up. I do want to know why the band broke up. I really do like that part of the book. I think all of us, especially us 90s kids, have bands that we would love to see get back together. Since it follows their two moms, I just keep thinking of the Spice Girls. I don't know why that's coming into my head because I think it's more of a rock band than like a pop band, but that's where my brain is going. So I am enjoying that part of the book. I just think that we missed a little bit of a backstory that was almost needed to explain why these characters were so connected. And yes, I do know they had a similar upbringing, being the daughter and son of a very famous person, but I still don't think that quite makes the whole thing make sense. I have finished Wreck the Halls. I'm gonna preface this. You may hear some wind in the background of this clip. We are in the middle of a crazy windstorm. It's like 80 to 100km/h gusts outside. The fact that I still have power is amazing. So I'm going to vlog and try and get that in before I lose power. I'm hoping that I don't, but that seems unlikely. Anyway, I finished Wreck the Halls. This one was interesting. The second half I feel like was better than the first half. I really do feel like this was a Friends to Lovers where we were missing the friends component. And I think if that would have been in here, this book would have been a lot better for me. I did enjoy the book overall. It was cute. It was a fun romance. It's not very Christmassy. It's barely any Christmas, so keep that in mind. It is more based around getting this band back together for like the New Year's Eve Times Square celebration situation, but it was cute. I liked the characters. I did like the second half, like I said, a bit more than I liked the first half. So I was torn about what rating to give this. Was it a 3 for me? Was it a 4? I think really it's a 3.5, but I don't do half-star ratings, so I ended up giving it a 3 on Goodreads. That's what we went with. It's not my favorite Tessa Bailey. It's not my least favorite. It's kind of in the middle. What I would love to see, and I know I'll never see it because Tessa Bailey only writes romance, but I would love to go back in time or even follow the mothers of these two characters for a book. I loved the mothers. I really, really liked them. They gave me like Grace and Frankie vibes if you've ever seen that Netflix TV show. Absolutely love them, and I would love to see a book following them either in the past when they were like at the height of the band or like even now that they've kind of come back together for the kids. Like I would be okay with that. That would work for me. They were some of my favorite characters and they're barely in this book. So I would love to see more of the mother characters from this book. Anyway, 3 stars. We're moving on to what I'm hoping is more of a holiday romance because this was a romance and it was set at Christmas time, but it wasn't really Christmassy. So I'm hoping the next one has more holiday vibes. The next one I'm reading is 3 Holidays and a Wedding. This obviously won't have super Christmas vibes, but I'm hoping it will have holiday vibes because it follows 3 holidays. It follows Christmas, Ramadan, and Hanukkah. This is set in Canada. It's set in Toronto. That's kind of fun for me. I do like that. And I love that it follows the different holidays people celebrate in December and isn't just Christmas focused. I've read a few romances around Hanukkah. I don't think I've read any around Ramadan. So I'm excited to add that to my collection and to my bookshelves. And I hope that I really love this. So it's the next day and I did pivot a little bit. I have not started 3 Weddings and a Holiday. I will, but I haven't. I actually switched books out because shortly after talking to you, I lost power. I was dealing with that and then it was dark, so I really needed to read something on my Kindle. So I ended up picking up A Little Magic by Lindsay Lanza. This is a book that Kelsey read earlier this month or at the end of November and absolutely loved and recommended to me. I got it on KU and also the audiobook through Everand. This is a brother's best friends, friends to lovers book. This follows 2 timelines. In the current timeline, Ellie is going back to Vermont. She grew up in Vermont. Her family is there, but she is estranged from her family for various reasons that are very, very understanding. She grew up with lupus, and the way her parents handled her lupus was keeping her kind of contained and not letting her explore the world. And it's caused her to have a rift with her family. She is working with a therapist on this, and I do appreciate the look into working with a therapist to work on toxic relationships. And also the look of just because someone is your family doesn't mean you need to have a close relationship with them if it is a toxic relationship. Really liking the look of that in this book. When she was growing up, she ended up visiting this like winter wonderland farm thing that was owned by Theo's family. Theo was her brother Ezra's best friend, and Theo's parents owned this winter wonderland, Christmas tree farm, etc. She's going back to this place to blog about it for her travel blog, but she thinks he doesn't own it anymore. However, Theo recently rebought the property and he owns it. So when Ellie shows up, it's a surprise to see Theo. We see the past timeline of them as small kids, as friends, and then as they grow up into teenagers where they have an infatuation for each other. I don't know how much they dated at this time reading the book, but there's definitely some dating happening in their late teen years. I'm currently 42% through this book. I read a ton of it last night. As of right now, I'm having a great time with this book and I want to get back to it. So I had to at least let you know that I was reading this book and what it was about because I hadn't. We're gonna read this first and then I will go back and read 3 Weddings and a Holiday, but know that, you know, we've had to make a change. I have finished A Little Magic by Lindsay Lanza and I adored this book. 5 stars. It's so cute. And the way this friendship is woven together with this past timeline of them as kids and teenagers, kind of seeing how their friendship developed into something more and how it grew stronger. And then also what kind of broke it up and made them kind of go their separate ways and now come back together in the present timeline was so fantastically done. It really reminded me of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, which was also a 5-star read for me. Love in Other Words made me cry. This made me tear up. It wasn't as emotional as Love in Other Words, but it was still a beautiful way to tell a love story and I just loved it. I just absolutely loved it. It has so many tropes that people are going to love. You've got friends to lovers, only one bed. There is so much happening in this book and it's just so well done. The author has another book out and I will definitely be reading it because I want to read more by this author. I really liked how topics were covered in this book. I think I mentioned it in my halfway through check-in, but the way that therapy was covered in this book and how Elle was so determined to better herself and to really come at hard relationships in her family in a healthy way for her, no matter what other people in her family wanted from her, was a really powerful look at how to deal with either toxic relationships or even just relationships with people who are not the best or who don't put you first or are kind of being manipulative in a way, or even just being overprotective, because I think her mom was really just scared. Her mom had a child who had a chronic illness and she was scared and overcompensated in a lot of ways. And we got to see that because of the 2 timelines. We got to see how that affected Elle growing up. And we saw this in both timelines. We saw it in the past timeline as she's growing up and we're seeing her mother kind of taking control and kind of overprotecting her. And we're seeing it in the present timeline of Elle taking control of her health and really making decisions that are right for her and having bodily autonomy. I really, really loved the chronic illness rep in this book. So between my love for Elle and Theo and my appreciation for how therapy is talked about in this book and how relationships with family that maybe aren't always safe for you are handled in this book, and also the chronic illness rep is handled in this book, I just absolutely could not give this less than 5 stars. 5 stars. Definitely will be reading the other book by this author very, very soon, early in the new year for sure. But we still have one more holiday romance to get to. So I'm going to go back to 3 Holidays and a Wedding. I didn't start this, meant to. I told you power outage, you know, you just saw it. So I'm going to go read this now. So it pains me to do this, but I'm 90 pages into 3 Holidays and a Wedding, and I'm going to DNF this book. There are many reasons why I'm going to DNF this book, but the main one is how Canada is depicted in this book. It is irritating me to no end. This is set in Canada. It's set in Toronto. That's kind of fun for me. And it's set in Canada in a way where the stereotypes are just so overdone. And there's just so many of them that it's just become almost a caricature of Canada. It really feels like what people think Canada is like who have never been here, which is concerning to me because the authors are Canadian. So why that's coming off that way, I don't know. I'm wondering if they wanted to put like Canadian culture in here, but like just was very too heavy-handed with it. I don't know how it came to be the way that it came to be, but it's over the top. It started with a reference to Tim Hortons, which was actually kind of cute, and I enjoyed that part. And then like, I'm only 90 pages into this book. Our main characters meet on the airplane. Well, in the airport before the airplane, and it's Anna and Miriam. Miriam's going to Toronto for Ramadan and her sister's wedding, and Anna is going to Toronto to be with her fiance's family for Christmas. And they get derailed because of a snowstorm, and instead of landing in Toronto, they land in Ottawa. Now, if you don't know Canada, you may not know, but Ottawa is our capital city. It's not a small place. It's quite large. They drive on buses to a town outside of Ottawa, and they go there to stay overnight or until they can get a new flight to Toronto. And somehow this, about 20 minutes outside of Ottawa, is the most secluded town you could ever see in all your days. The next thing you know, they're in a bar, they're watching hockey, they're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs and never winning the Stanley Cup, which, you know, that's fine too. Then they're wearing toques and talking about snowshoeing everywhere because everyone snowshoes everywhere. And I'm like, where are you in Canada that everyone is snowshoeing? And then they're getting poutine and putting on parkas, and it was a lot. The poutine pushed me over the edge. I'm gonna be really honest. The poutine pushed me over the edge. I was just like, what is next? What is the next thing we're gonna do? Are we gonna see a moose? Is there gonna be a beaver walk by? Will there be goose flying from the sky? Like, it was just too much. It was too much. I think it was well-intentioned, but it was too much. And it was just very heavy-handed. And I was just getting more and more irritated. As you can see, I'm irritated. So instead of trying to push through, I'm just going to release this into the atmosphere. I'm sad because I like the premise of this book, but I think the whole thing is very heavy-handed. I was looking at reviews of the book, and everyone kind of said that this town seems really unrealistic. And I could kind of see how unrealistic it was in just the tiny bit that I was in the small town, and I was not in it very long. I gave up pretty quickly into the town. So I can't speak to it too much. And I'm so sad because I did really like this idea of looking at this holiday and this year when all three kind of holidays landed on the same date. You had Eid, Christmas, and Hanukkah all kind of landing on the same day. And I liked that idea a lot, but the execution for me just did not work, and I was getting very frustrated. So unfortunately, we're ending this on a DNF. I hate doing that in a vlog. I hate ending on a sad note, but it is what has happened. At least we did have a 5-star book in here, so there was one holiday book that I really enjoyed, but that is the end of the holiday romances for this year for me. I'm kind of disappointed. I had one that I really liked. This one obviously was just not for me and did not work. And Wreck the Halls, I did like enough, like it was an enjoyable time, but that was not a holiday romance. And I feel like that's happening more and more. I was talking about this with some people that if it's set in December, we call it a holiday romance. And I don't get enough of the holiday vibes. And I don't know why we're doing that in publishing. Anyway, that's an aside note. But I just would like more holiday romances. I need better holiday romances. Anyway, that's the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.